Hi everyone, Amy here. I'm recording to you from my home office, and I just want to share with you a little bit of things that I've been chewing on, things that I've been thinking about, that God has been speaking to me. And my goal, my hope, my prayer is that it will just encourage you, that it will build you up. I think of that scripture out of the Bible that says that we're to build each other up in the most holy faith. That's my prayer. So we're living in a really troubled time right now. None of us have seen anything like this in our lifetimes. And yet none of it is a surprise to God. And over again in the scripture, God gives us a command. In fact, it's the command that he gives us the most often. And it's not the command, do not steal or do not lie, or even honor your father and mother, which is a great command with a promise. But the command that he gives us over and over again, as I'm sure you are probably aware, is the command, do not be afraid. Do not fear. And I think that God gives us that command so frequently because he knows we're going to need it. He knows what we're made of. He knows what we deal with. He knows our emotions. And so he tells us repeatedly, do not be afraid. I've heard it said many, many times that the command, do not be afraid, is actually found 365 times in the scripture. I don't know that to be the case. I've never researched that or counted it myself, so I can't say it does. But I do know that the command, do not be afraid, is said over and over and over again. And we're living in a season where fear, where anxiety can come and be an unwelcome guest, an intruder in our home. That was perfect timing. My dogs just intruded into my recording. And you know what? Fear can do the same thing. It can break in. I want to read you something out of my devotional that ministered to me. This is by Chris Tygreen, and it's his devotional, Hearing His Voice. And this is what Chris wrote, the author wrote, and it blessed me, and I hope it encourages you. He uses the scripture, Isaiah 43:1, and that scripture says, do not be afraid, for I have ransomed you. I have called you by name. You are mine. And this is what Chris wrote. And he's writing this as if God was speaking it. So his title is literally From the Heart of God. Now, this isn't biblical words. It's just Chris's impression of what God is speaking to us, as if God were speaking. This is what it says. No matter how often I tell you not to be afraid, again, God speaking, no matter how often I tell you not to be afraid, you approach crisis moments of life in fear. That's natural. I understand. But I want you to grow beyond that. I want your heart to trust me so easily that your first reaction in a troubling situation is not to wonder if I'm going to work it out, but to look to see how I will work it out. Your spiritual reflex needs to bring you to a place of rest, not worry. I will never let go of you, and I never will. I have never let go of you, and I never will. Do you understand why? I've invested a lot in this relationship. I've ransomed you at no small cost to myself. It was painful to do so, but I willingly accepted that pain. I have called you by name, completely aware from the beginning of who you were, are, and will be. I saw the end of your story before it even began, and I chose you in that light. I did not begin a relationship with you only to be disappointed. I did not cultivate your love only to give up on it later. I did not lead you down this path without knowing where it's headed. That's why I can tell you not to be afraid. I know the end. It's going to work out well for you no matter how things appear right now. When I calm your nerves and remind you that I'm with you, you have a choice. You can remain stressed and worried, or you can believe me and relax. Those are your options. Far too many people choose to continue in worry and stress, but they are wasting their energy. They've forgotten the nature of our relationship. You, however, must remember that I don't speak empty words. When I say, do not be afraid, it's because I know you have nothing to fear. Over and over again, God tells us not to be afraid. And the reason he can tell us that with such confidence is that he knows our past, he knows our present, and he knows our future. And he knows that we have nothing to fear. I love the way that Chris Tyreen wrote that. You know, I love Isaiah 49, 15 and 16, and I'll leave you with this. It's a scripture I've quoted to you a lot. It's one of my memory verses, but it says, "Can a woman forget her nursing child and have no compassion on the son of her womb?" And it's basically saying, is that even humanly possible? And then it answers the question. Isaiah answers the question and says, even these may forget, but I will not forget you. See, I have inscribed you on the palm of my hands. God knows the very number of hairs on your head. He knows all about you. He knows the good, the bad, and the ugly. But in spite of all of that, God is for you. God is with you. He is with us during this. And I think you just have to say, God, help me to remember that I belong to you, and help me to remember that you are here with me. And because you are with me, there is no need to fear. I do not have to be afraid. I can entrust myself. I can entrust my family. I can entrust my finances. I can entrust my future to you. I do not need to be afraid.